Right here we got the gauges. These gauges will show you the pressure of the refrigerant in the vehicle. Right there's the lines. Notice there's a blue one and a red one. The blue one's for the low side, the side before the air compressor. Red one's for the high side, the side after the air compressor. Right there I'm screwing the valve in and out. So you clip that on, and then you have to screw in that knob to move that little brass valve in there. You can see it moving back right now. You always want to make sure that's backed off before you put it on the port. There's the high side one. This right here is what you use if you need to add refrigerant or oil, or if you don't have a machine, you can use this vacuum pump right here. You screw it on, which I struggle with for a minute because I'm trying to do it with one hand. There we go. So then you would just turn the vacuum pump on and it would suck everything out of your system after you open that valve. But the downside to that is all your refrigerant goes into the atmosphere and then you get in trouble. So that's like worst case scenario, or if you know the system's been drained. Right here is the AC machine, which is that pump and those gauges and some other stuff put together. Right now I'm turning it on, waiting for it to boot up. Now it's going through all the sensors, doing a self-check. Machine. Here's the hoses, high side and low side again. That blue tank down there is a tank full of refrigerant, so we can add it to the machine. This bottle right here holds the oil and the dye if we need to inject oil into a system or dye to find a leak. We can put the correct amount into there and suck it out. It's got ounces on it. That's the tank, the supply tank that's full of refrigerant. Right there's the sight glass for the compressor oil or the pump oil, and there's not enough, so I need to add oil. If I was just going to add oil, I would add it right there. Unscrew that, put a funnel in there, add some vacuum pump oil. But that's not how you do it. So I would drain the oil out first from there and just do an oil change on it. So that's your home screen. The recovery capacity is how much we can recover before the filter's bad. The charge capacity is how much refrigerant we have in the machine. Not the blue tank, but in the machine. So I pushed recover just to go through it to show you guys how the machine works. I didn't hook the hoses up to a vehicle because I'm just doing a machine demo. So right now it's checking the pressures to see if there's refrigerant. It says there's no refrigerant, which is what it's supposed to do. Then I would go to vacuum. Vacuum lowers the pressure so much that the water will boil off. If you add pressure, the boiling temperature rises. If you take it away, the boiling temperature lowers. So we want that water out of the system. So we're going to vacuum it. It's going to suck it down. Should get down to negative 28 degrees or inches of mercury. Negative 28 inches of mercury. Then you would go to charge. Normally you put 2.5 pounds, 1.5 pounds. I'm putting 9/10 of a pound, 9/100 of a pound in there, just so you can see the gauges move. This machine charges on the high side. That's why I wanted the high side gauge moved. On the inside of there, it keeps the high and low side separated whenever you're doing a charge, because it doesn't want you to put liquid refrigerant into the low side and then your compressor will suck in that liquid refrigerant and stuff goes bad. Because you can't compress a liquid, right? Just like an engine. You don't want water in your engine, you don't want liquid refrigerant in your compressor. So now I hit recovery, so it opened those two to where they're open to each other, and you can see the pressure's equaled out to about 115 or so. If whatever your gauges are hooked up to has a charge, the gauges should equal out to about ambient temperature. It's not 115 outside, but it's pretty close. Probably like 105. So now it's making sure there's no air in the system before it recovers the refrigerant, because it doesn't want to mix the refrigerant with the air. There it goes. Now it's recovering the refrigerant. After that, you can see the pressures drop. They drop pretty quick because I didn't put very much refrigerant in there, just a little bit in the lines. Things will take longer and run a little different when it's hooked up to a vehicle. The recovery usually takes about 10 or 15 minutes. Then you have to vacuum it for at least 30 minutes. If you take a compressor out or something big, some shops will leave it under a vacuum overnight to make sure all the humidity's out of there, all the water's out of there. But that was just a basic overview on how to run the machine. Look at the gauges, do the recovery, do a vacuum, fix the problem, inject oil if you need to, and then charge it.